Welcome back to 15 with Fosca, the podcast, and to part 2 of my conversation with Rachel Zitin, retreat leader, embodiment coach, yoga teacher, holistic Italy travel expert, writer, and wellness professional. I had so much fun talking to Rachel, and I know you'll enjoy the rest of this episode as much as I enjoyed sitting down with her for a great chat about life in Italy, what she's doing, and what's in store for the new year. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember to like, follow, and share. It means the world to me. Grazie mille e buon ascolto.
I love what you said, because this is something that I think about all the time. I'm raising a child here. She's 18 now, but I think about how different everything is here. Like in America, it's like, oh, where'd you go to school? What do you do? How much money do you make? Da, 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 da. It's that never happens here. Like when you meet someone, I don't ever think I've met somebody and been like, oh, what do you do for a living? Like maybe it'll look right. Or where did you go to school?
Never. When I say where I went to school to Americans and they go, wow, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a funny thing. I went to Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, funny. Like, no, I have Italian friends that I've known for over 10 years, 15 years, friends I've been friends with for 15 years. And I could tell you in one sentence what they do for a living and could not expand on it because it's not important.
Yeah. And I also think that we're raised in this hyper competitive, achievement orient, which is wonderful. Like I'm extremely competitive with myself. It's not that, but the sort of in here in Italy, it's almost like just be like, just like be
uncommunal.
Right. Exactly.
Also less.
Yeah. Like you're just part of you're just like a speck of dust, and maybe, right. And maybe that is why it's like so liberating living here in a lot of ways, because you don't have that constant, I'm not saying that people don't compare themselves or there aren't people who are cutthroat and, trying to whatever, but the majority of people you meet just want to talk to you, and that people want to talk about themselves. They want to tell you what they love, what they do, how they spend their time. They want to involve you. I think Rome is a little different from Florence because, Florence gets a bad rap because, Florentines aren't notoriously like the friendliest people. That's not been my personal experience. I think I've been extremely fortunate, but, already Rome is very different. And we're talking about a very minor geographical distance, but that is a conversation for another day. We could talk about all the Italian regional differences, but I think that's just incredibly fundamental about the culture that does give you. You don't have to be perfect, and I'm making quote marks here because this is an audio only episode, but I think Americans are obsessed with this notion of always having to, we got to get this, and this race, the rat race. And that's and it's kind of getting worse. I read an article this morning that was so disconcerting that was about how there's this return now to this new fad in the Silicon Valley, which is based on, I guess, a Chinese work model, which is basically you should be working nonstop all the time. And I'm thinking wait, no, we were just finally getting to a place where we were understanding work-life balance. And now people are corporate, well, that's another podcast, but in other words, this thing with companies wanting you to prove your loyalty by basically working yourself to the bone, which is never going to produce. I mean, in the moment, you have a deadline, whatever, we've all done it. But in the long run, if you're not nurturing your whole self, you're not going to be on the top of your game. That's just a fact. And so that notion, and Italians are extremely hard workers. I hate when people are like, oh, Italians are not lazy by any means. Italians are extremely hard workers, but they understand that life is for living. Right?
Absolutely. Well, and I think to sort of acknowledge everything you just said on a bigger picture, it's we do live in a globalized world now. So Italians see the way Americans exist and they want more of that. And I think in America, because we are so capitalist, we are so productivity focused. I mean, for me, the word productivity was invented sometime in the early 1800s, late 1700s to refer to machines in the Industrial Revolution, right? So it's not a human word, it's a machine word. And I think that in and of itself is, it's like worth acknowledging that we all do take from different, like, there are Italians who are striving, there are, and then, so why not have more Americans that are striving to calm down, striving to do less, striving to, it's like, it's that. And I think you made such a good point about the warmth and the friendliness, because it's like when we connect with people, especially people who are different from us, especially people we can't get anything in air quotes from, people that aren't going to do anything for us, we just connect. I think it's a constant, it's a return and a reminder of our own shared humanity. And what you said is like, we're specks. So it's really easy in this world right now, kind of to bring it back to wellness and personal development. It's really easy to think, I always need to be doing something to reach this next goal. And it's like, we're just like, the Italians have taught me, like, wellness is being well. You listen to yourself, you take breaks, you sleep when you need to, you cancel plans when you need to, you change plans when you need to, you advocate for your own humanity. And in advocating for your own humanity, you advocate for the humanity in everyone, in all of us, in each of us. And I think that, yeah, like, I mean, baseline, Americans have a lot to learn from that. And I see it when I go to the States and I think, oh, even the people I'm closest to who really get me still sometimes don't quite understand, especially until it's a lived experience. Like, this life that I'm living is no less, I want to say challenging, but that's not, it's like, it's got all of the things. And yet I'm more connected to me. I'm more connected to others. I'm more able to look at things big picture. I'm more able to zoom out. And then, like, within that, I'm more able to have fun because I can, like, play within those boundaries of, like, hey, I'm just okay. You're okay. Like, we're all better than we think we are, even when things feel bad. And that idea of, like, making people work all the time, you're like, no, so it's like a horror film. And then it's also like, we can't, for what? Like, no one's going to be, and it's that, you were talking about longevity before. And I love that, the thing that was going around the internet that was like the guy who's like biohacking. He's an American and he's spending millions of dollars. I forget that guy's name. And he's taking all these pills and all these supplements. And, he has all of his wearables and all of his things. And then there's like the Italian man with the tutto pasta tattoo and he's smoking a cigarette and he's on the beach and he's like, yeah, like the idea of one of these people is having a much better time than the other one. And that idea of like, I want to live to be 120. It's like, for what? If you're not enjoying it, like, life is for joy. Life is to be enjoyed. Life is to experience. And once you align yourself with all that, you kind of start living better and longer as a result. So it's also like, God, like, dear America, the spoiler alert is that when you do have fun and enjoy yourself, and like when you start doing all of these things that are so absolutely against the way that society wants you to behave, you actually end up falling into line as the person that you're trying to be. And you don't even have to do that much. You just have to be.
Yeah. I love so many things about what you said, but I do want to go back to one thing, which I think is very relatable for the both of us and that connects us is the disconnect. When people not everyone really understands our lived experiences. And I think there's this image of Italy, especially post-pandemic, this just like La Dolce Vita. And so this myth of Italian society that is very easy for Americans to consume, to aspire to. Social media has totally fueled this, this, it's really a simulacrum of what the reality of life in Italy is. But there is some truth in it. In other words, it's not like people are just sitting around, at a cafe or drinking spritzes all day, but even those inaccurate representations of the country do reveal some of the truth. Like, I've been seeing all this stuff lately. I've been getting fed all this stuff on my social media of, fellow Americans here in Italy, a lot of young influencers, content creators, whatever, who say, oh, the most underrated town in Italy. And this is what's happening on a Friday night at, 6 p.m. And I wonder how you feel about, and this is something that really leads me nicely into a question for you about sustainable tourism, because how do you feel about these representations, A? And then how do you feel about what are you doing really in terms of your business to promote that kind of tourism that I think we are all very invested in seeing now for reasons that I don't need to, go into. I'd like to hear them from you.
Totally. That's such a beautiful question. I think the baseline, okay, so Italy is not just sepia toned spritzes, right? It's not just all of us sitting around in golden hour. Um, and I think that the reason why people feel so good when they're in Italy on vacation is because there is an energy and an air, again, of permission. And they're so not used to feeling that by being, and sometimes people don't fully, it's hard to get it in a week or 10 days, but I do think that there is a feeling that Italy brings to most travelers. God, I have so many different thoughts right now, that the lived experience is different, right? Living in Italy is not all sunshine and rainbows. There's a lot of stuff, like any country in the world.
Yeah.
But to your point about sustainable tourism, I have I don't want to say controversial, but I do have friends who find my opinion on it controversial, which is I am grateful that these influencers exist who in Rome, there's a restaurant called Osteria da Fortunata, and it's very famous, and there's women in the window and they're making pasta and only tourists go there. And there's like 4 or 5 locations. It's like, Antico Vivaio too, which we have now also. It's a sandwich shop.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
And my controversial opinion is I'm so grateful that those things exist, because tourists are going to tourist. People who are coming to Italy for 2 or 3 days are going to be people who get on TikTok and who look for the trendiest thing and who do these things that are like and the internet is very weird, but it exists and we have to acknowledge it exists. So as much as I wish I could just be like, yeah, I just wish that none of this existed. It's like, no, but that's unrealistic and silly of me to be like, man, stupid social media, because it is what
it's there and it's not going away. It's there.
Exactly. So influencers, content creators, listen, go watch. Like, I'm grateful that they are sending a particular type of person to a particular place. And I think the thing is that the real magic of Italy that's underneath that veneer is what I'm promoting, is what I think you're promoting, is what most of the women and men, most of the people I know are really invested in, the idea of experiences that are bespoke, that are a little bit more niche, that are authentic and real authentic, as in for real, this is authentically what Italians do, but also for me as an expat, when I take people in bespoke experiences around Rome, I'm like, listen, this is the trendy coffee shop. I'm happy to go there. They have good coffee. It's not where I go for coffee. I go to this place. it is up to you. So I'm like really, and I think that's back to being comfortable with who you are. I'm really forthright when I do bespoke trips, and I'm really forthright when I go on retreat, which is like, I don't even like an app. I really don't like Aperol, but I understand that you want to be drinking an Aperol spritz. So please drink an Aperol spritz. Please take your obligatory, like I do a boat trip on all of my summer retreats because who doesn't want to be on a boat in the Mediterranean?
Right.
Is it a little cliche? Sure. Am I going with a group of 50 other TikTokers? No, I get a private boat and I have a private so it's like kind of being able to toe that line of, I understand that people are coming to Italy because they want hashtag content creation. Even if they're not content creators, they want those experiences. And so for me, I always say my retreats, for example, it's an outside journey and an inside journey. So you're going to leave not just with some great pictures of you on a boat, but also with some deeper knowledge of who you are inside. And because of my personal lived experience, I'm sharing that through the lens of, let's have a conversation with a man at a bar. I lead one-on-one pleasure retreats in Italy as well. So I work with women one-on-one for an entire day. We create an experience together, and the co-created experience, one of the things I include is we're in Rome, we're on the streets, and we're walking to the florist, and we're going to smile and flirt with the florist, even if it's a 92-year-old man, even if it's a 35-year-old woman. We're going to exude the thing that I think that a lot of people are missing in their lives. And so that's authenticity, right? And so back to sustainable tourism, for me, it's like, thank controversial opinions. Thank God all that crap exists, because people are going to come to Italy and want that crap. And it's not even crap. They're going to want the cliche. And my personal belief is there's so much more to experience in this country. And I want to create from my own lived experience, those experiences, which means I'm not very scalable. There's only me. And I have some people who work with me, but like, and I see you as that too. It's like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel for mass tourism.
No, and I don't want to. Like, I'm 100%, like, I agree 100% with what you said. Like, let the content creators are out there and they're catering to a very specific audience. And I would never begrudge anyone. I mean, I have clients who tell me they're coming to Florence. I would never say to them, don't do this. You have to do this if you're coming to Florence. But I will say, okay, think about this too. Or would you like to go somewhere a little more off the beaten path? Or, how can you engage and really take away something very deep and not just like a memory of, like lots of long lines or, whatever. And so I think trying to, when I think about sustainable tourism, I'm so glad you said this. It's not just about the places, it's about the people.
Yeah.
And I was walking around Florence yesterday, it's the end of September, and the tourists are still here. And I'm so happy you're here. It's all good. But it's about the people, and also like being aware of that, and so whether that be in our interactions or with respect for the culture, or how we represent our countries, how we interact with people. That's what I try to get to with the podcast, and also with my consulting work, is like, all right, you're just showing up in a country, and even if it is just for a week, look at these things that I'm giving you to read, or think about these things, or have a conversation with me, because we risk being a little too superficial in everything we do then.
Exactly.
Right?
Let's
And you
go
could be
deeper.
anywhere. Let's go deeper. Even if it is
Let's go
just for a
deeper.
week, it changes everything. If I think about the best things that have happened to me during my travels, right? Of course, it's places and things like that, but it's the random encounter you had, the conversation over a dinner. I'm also the kind of person, I mortify, my daughter, but I chat people up all the time, right? And
Yep,
I'm like,
absolutely.
so where would you go for dinner? Where would you go for a drink around here? And that doesn't mean I don't do my homework. Of course I do my homework. I look at everything, but I want to talk to you. I want to know what you are going to tell me. And I think in a place like Italy, it happens all over the world, of course, but like Italy, Italians love to help you, and they want to share with you their little, like their favorite spot for a coffee or what have you. And so thank you for also recognizing that we are in this moment. It's not going to change. So
Yeah.
it's not really a question of even like living with it. It's a question of also choosing what works best for you.
Exactly. And acknowledging that tourism and travel are different, frankly. Like one of the things I'll say to my clients, like I'll have clients who are like, when I do tour stuff, like, well, we have to go to the Sistine Chapel. And I'm like, you don't, they'll let you out of the country even if you don't visit it. If you're not interested in going to the Sistine Chapel, it's a long haul. It's stunning. I am not discouraging a visit, but I used to be very persnickety about that. Even like we have to go inside the Colosseum. It's like, if you don't want to, you don't. And I understand that there's this sort of consumerist drive when you're touring to check, 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 check. But the actual things that are good, I mean, like you said, all the things from all of the travels I've done, never once is it, and then I saw the Eiffel Tower. It's like I saw the Eiffel Tower at this particular moment in this particular space with these particular people. And it being there was just like a beacon, but was just a part
Right.
of the experience.
Exactly. I'm so glad you said that, because I was thinking the same things as you were speaking. And sort of, I think sustainable travel also, and I've said this before on the podcast, is about taking our agency back. It's fine to do our homework. It's fine to look at influencers. It's fine to have those places on our list. But what I often find myself telling clients is, what is important to you?
Back to that. What do you, and it's that for me is embodiment too. And that's why I think my sort of my like everything in me wanted to move from just doing tours to doing these retreats to doing more like customized experiences to, because it's like at the end of the day, embodiment, being aware of your own body and your own thoughts and your own feeling, like everything of you, what that is giving yourself the pause of, do I want a coffee this morning or do I want to go on a walk? Do I want like over planned travel? Like you don't want to come back from a vacation, whether it's a vacation or a retreat. You don't want to come back from an experience needing a break.
Yeah.
We deserve breaks. And so while you're on the break, take the break. And like you said, like if you're a person who loves over researching, do it, but have the grace with yourself that if you go to the wine bar that everyone recommended and you look at it and say, nah, cool, it's a no. It's not a big deal. It can be a no right then.
I think it's because we have this ongoing commentary, on
Yeah.
our lives and on our choices. And whether that be wellness or how we travel or where we go, there's always somebody out there. Haters gonna hate, whatever.
Yep.
But there's always somebody who, when you come back from your trip to Italy and you're like, I didn't see the Sistine Chapel or I didn't make it to the Vatican, they'll be judgy,
Yep.
or and like we got to get rid of that. Like we've got to get rid of that. So we're getting to the end of the podcast. And I really, really like, my whole premise for this was like, Rachel, I want to talk about your writing. Because I just finished my first novel and I'm pitching it, trying to get it out there. And I know that you are also a writer. And if you can talk a little bit about that, I'd love to hear what you're working on and what your plans are.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love this because everything else we've talked about is it's like all in it's all my, oh my gosh, what's the word? It's all in my wheelhouse. Like everything else, I'm just like, I fully know all of this, like retreats and Rome and pleasure and life. And then my novel, I'm like, I'm a writer. I'm a writer. I am a writer. I've been writing my whole life. I love writing. And I wrote a novel too. And that was one of the things we bonded on when we chatted. Goodness, so I started writing a memoir about 2 years ago, and it's like an ongoing process. And at some point that will come out too. And I found a lot of things in memoir writing, but I think the baseline was it felt a little too much like therapy, and it felt a little too inconclusive. So as I was working on this memoir this past winter, I'd had this idea for a novel that had been living inside of me for about 4 years. And it just, when I say it spilled out of me, it's like goosebumps. Like it was just like, uh, and you're too.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't even explain it. A mystical experience.
Fully mystical, psychedelic. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, this is getting written.
Yep.
And then it was written and now it's written. And that's actually one of my, like this winter, I'm really going to settle into, I'll be launching my retreats for next year and I'll be getting all these sort of pieces together for L'estate Prossima for next summer. And then I'll be working on really like finalizing and pitching this book and the novel. Gosh, and that's the other thing. I'm like, I don't even know how to elevator pitch it, but the story is of a man and a woman who are having an affair, and it's over an arc of about 20 years. And the whole premise of the story is talking about, honestly, and this is the part that's been so fun and so interesting, is having that 1 degree of separation to get to write about all of these things that are so contradictory in my brain because he's European and she's American. And the whole arc of the story, it's about location and place and cultural rules and society and the way we view different things and the way we're raised versus the way we are as grown-ups, the roles we have to play within our respective societies. And sort of just this like bigger, much more exploratory space of how travel changes us, how travel impacts us, how humans and the way we connect with them impact us, and how difficult and also almost impossible it can be to bring those sensations back home. So yeah, it's a big exploration on cultural rules, society, Italy, a lot of it. So there's like an arc of the story, which is this affair, and then the underneath of the story is this conversation happening between a man and a woman in a cafe in Rome. And so it's cultural observations, it's societal observations, it's beauty, it's art, it's all these different things. And it's sexy. And yeah, that's it.
So I'm not, first of all, I want to read it. So if you're looking for
Yeah.
an early reader or any feedback, I'm absolutely on board. A.
Okay.
B, in addition to our creative processes being very similar, and I want to speak to that in just a second. I think there are a lot of themes in our books are very similar. Mine is also set in Italy. It's set in 1995. It's more of a coming of age story, but it has all the things. It's got sex, art, food, music. It's all about pleasure in the end. Well, it's about friendship. It's about love. It's about coming into our own. But a lot of the themes are similar. And what is, and I think there's a readership for both of these books. I mean, stories set in Italy are appealing for many of the reasons that we've been talking about: place, the beauty of the place, the pleasures, living life in this way that Italians live their lives, which involves a lot of, for this American writer living in Italy, it was, it's been a process, all these years I've been living here. I want to speak to the creativity for a second, because I also started out thinking I wanted to write a sort of a memoir-ish thing. Okay. And I've identified as a writer my whole life. I have never allowed myself to be a writer.
Me, yes.
Okay. And so what happened, and I tell this to people all the time, because I don't think it's just something you can talk about related to writing, but anything you do in your life, anything that you care about or passionate about. So what I did was at a certain point, I took a very hands-on approach, and I was like, I need to be spending time with more writers. And I need to be doing something to more actively pursue this. I'm serious about this now. And I always say this, and I truly believe this, but when you start spending time with writers, and you see that there are people just like you and they've done it, something kind of magical happens. So for me, it was like it was like 3 or 4 key moments. I had been trying to write. I mean, Rachel, I can't tell you how many books I have started. I have
Yes.
started so many books. And at some point, maybe I'll finish them. But I had a few key conversations and I had participated in, let's say, workshops or meetings or things that woke up something in me and also enabled me to get rid of the shit that my brain was telling me. Because my brain was saying, no, no, you're not good enough. No, no, you can't write a book. Anyway, long story short, I meet someone and I was sort of saying, oh, I'm writing this book and it's sort of like a memoir, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no,
Huh?
you should write a novel because it's hard. I mean, a lot of people write memoirs, but obviously there's more of a market if you're actually like well known. So I didn't take offense at that. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go write a novel. And then, I had a couple of other conversations with writers. One of which was this woman who I met through sort of a friend in common. And she said to me, I didn't want to be that person who was always working on the book. And for
Yeah.
some reason, those simple words, I don't know what the hell it was, but I started writing right after the US elections in November. And
Uh-huh.
it just, exactly what you said, it just came out of me. I was there. I was just every morning, and that had never happened to me before. And it was the most, I still say, like, and then maybe this won't be the first book I publish, although I hope it is because it's my baby. But sometimes writers will say, the first book I wrote was not the first book I published. I think sometimes it's also, again, going back to this, like, knowing you can do it, that you have it in you.
Yes.
Okay, I wrote a book. I'm a writer. Like exactly what you said. I call myself a writer now. I've been a writer all my life. But now I can now
Totally.
write the book and I can actually be like, I have a manuscript. But it's so fascinating to me that you were going through the same exact thing that I went through. It's so powerful.
So incredible. I like get shivers thinking about it because literally that exact process. And one of the phrases I think of is what you said about it might not be your first book published. And I always think like, kill your darlings, right? Like, oh my goodness, I have to kill some of my darlings in this. And it's the part of this book being like you said, I feel exactly the same. I'm like, she's my little baby. I like
Yeah.
haven't let anyone read her from start to finish yet, which is
Uh,
wild. And it's like, I'm getting there. I'm close, but I'm not quite like I've let people read the first probably 30-40%. And I've let people read various sections, but like from front to back, I still haven't. And I'm like, I don't know how to explain it except for like that it's magic. It's literally magic. There's literally these ideas, like whatever creativity is, whatever in this like extremely esoteric sense, like when it hits you, it will erupt. And what a cool thing to think that like you said, that was brilliant. Like now that we know we can do it again. And we can it's like sort of back to our previous conversation, which is taking away goals and productivity and like, da, 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 and just being like, oh my God, I'm capable of this incredible thing, which is writing a novel, a 200-page novel in 2 months. I'm
yeah.
capable of that without AI and without like a writing, without anything. Like I didn't take a course. There's so many American voices in my head that are like, well, you should take a course now and you should do this and you should get a master's and you should do an MFA and I'm like, no, I have that in me. And other people have other amazing art. And like, we don't have like, it's back to there's no rules. Like, there's no formula for any of this. We just like little specks
Yeah.
creating.
Yeah. And I think you raise a really good point, and I want to underscore it just one more time, but it's what we've been talking about all along. And I think despite being our own worst enemies, which is always a problem, that little voice in your head and being able to change the narrative, the reason why I actually wrote the book, which was, I had the title for 30 years. I didn't, but I didn't know that was I didn't know that this was the book. I just like all these pieces fell into place, but it was because of those interactions I had with human beings. I spent a lot of time, um, trying to fit into a box of what I thought a writer was. So exactly what you were saying, like, oh, you have to be, have an MFA in creative writing, or you have to have done, a million workshops and done this and that. No, it was conversations I had with writers. It was
Yep.
conversations that I had with people that I happened to meet that, I don't know, there was some kind of spark that was lit, and simultaneously a fire under my ass, because all of a sudden I was just like, oh, I'm writing, like, and this is happening. And so I think it's sometimes very damaging. No, it's often very damaging when we, first of all, when we compare ourselves to others, when we put ourselves into these very limiting boxes, because then you can't be creative under those circumstances. You have to put yourself out there. It's getting back to that other, what we talked about at the beginning of the conversation. You got to just let go of whatever the narrative that has been fed to you is. You are what you are right now. You're producing what you're producing. You've created a work of art. Pat yourself on the back, and now go out and pitch that shit to the world and start working on your next book, right?
Yes.
And I'm proud of you, because like I know how long I struggled with this. And, even just calling myself a writer or saying I have this finished product. I know it feels very good when it's in your
Yes.
hands, and you've done it. And I'm extremely proud of anyone who can do this, because it's not easy. And involves so many, but it's so beautiful. It's just the
And I
most rewarding thing.
and I will say, to sort of like loop it all back, I think in some ways we created separately those circumstances for ourselves back to by living in a place that gave us permission to, by being in a space where we weren't constantly inundated with, like, for me, it's so funny because I'll have these sort of like, oh my gosh, I could actually be like a published author. This could be my thing. And then right back to, and you know what? I know, like, not that I would do it just because people will be proud of me, but like, I'll have my Italian friends still who are like, what do you do again? It's like, well,
Yeah.
I'm an author. I write books. Like,
It's,
duh. But it's like
it's
the best to just think like the humility of, we've done this incredible thing. In America, it's like, now what's next? And in Italy, it's like, cool, you did that. You could do something. And both are good. The American way is what's going to get both of us published. Right?
exactly,
For sure.
exactly,
And the
exactly,
Italian humility is what's going to keep us from kind of losing our minds and getting
exactly,
discouraged.
exactly. And that's what I wanted. I want to end our conversation by encouraging you, because I know how important it is to me to hear from people who understand and who've been through it. And it is hard to put yourself out there. Like, I get rejections all the time. It's okay. It's part of the process. Okay. But doing it, like, you've already, the way I feel now is like, I've already done the hard part. Getting it
Yes.
published, that's not going to be a problem. The hard part was writing it. Now we have to go shop it. So where can people find you, Rachel? And where your retreats, your work? Tell me everywhere
Yeah.
they can find you.
Okay. So website, easiest place, not currently super, well, yeah, updated. Pretty updated. And by the time this is published, we'll be fully updated. My
Okay.
website's just my full name. So rachelzitin.com. I have my retreat schedule up there. I have how to book private tours. I have how to book one-on-ones with me. Writing is not there yet, but will be by the time this is on air. And my Instagram, I hate it. I love it. Social media is a great way to keep up with me. I am consistently inconsistent, but I am on there and I love engaging with people. I love DMs. I think back to connection, like, I post on Instagram for the DMs, and not like, I post on Instagram so I can have conversations with people. And through those conversations spark magic. And yeah, my retreats next year, my whole schedule isn't out yet, but I have one next July in Puglia that I will be announced by the time this is on air. I'm working on a very exciting dates TBD, but next September or October 2026. It's a Rome retreat experience. So kind of the culmination of everything I've done in my life, a mastermind group for 6 to 10 women in Rome. So that's my big thing. And yeah, reach out. Honestly, I think if I was to say anything to your listeners and to, anyone who comes across this, it's like we live in a world where we are hyper connected and yet we don't connect. And trusting that if you want to connect with someone, I've had great conversations with people I really admire that I reached out to on social media and responded, and we talked for a bit, and it didn't quote unquote lead to anything, and it didn't have to, because that's the point too, is if you want to reach out to me, anyone who's listening to this, just to say hi, to ask me one question, great. Like, connection is what's going to save this world, right?
I can't think of a better way to end the podcast. I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank you for sharing all of the great work you do with us. And I can't wait to have you back on the podcast when both of our books are published. And then we can just talk about all that stuff too. I'll include your links in the description of the podcast. And just thanks so much for coming today. I've loved having you on.
This has been amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Fausta.